record. Share my screen. So let's just like kind of review just a couple differences when we're talking about functional components and class components with state. Just to maybe see them side by side. So with a functional component, we're going to use the useState hook. And I can have multiple states and setters for those states. So they're kind of like individualized. So if I wanted some state 1, I use the useState hook and give it the initial state. I could have another like state 2, and a way to set that state and give that an initial state. So if I want to update state 1, I just use that function that was given to me from the useState hook. With a class component in my constructor, I create the state, the initial state here with like this dot state, and it's our state in a class component. It's just going to be one. It's going to be all contained in one object. It's not, we're not splitting it up into these multiple states. It's going to be one object with the keys. And then if I like want to update state 1, I would say this dot set state, and then I would just update that one state 1 state. And it would not change. This would remain the same. State 2 would be unchanged. So that's just a little review of, or what we just talked about. Let's talk about props really quick. So props, let's say these counters like we did last time, we want to give these like a header prop. So with a, once again, when we're using these, you're not going to be able to know the difference. Like is counter A functional one, or is counter B a class? You don't know, you use them the same. Just can give them props. So in my functional component, I get props from the params. Like I define a props param that I'm expecting to be that object. So I can just access it like this, props dot, and then whatever I gave that name, it was header. What happened to my host? Sorry, 1 second, I lost my web page. All right. Nothing to, that's just a review. If I want to send a prop, I just do it via props dot, and then I can call it in my component props dot header, and then it will grab the value. And then this way, I can reuse this component. They can both have header props, but they can have different values. So now I have function counter 1, functional counter 2, they each have their own state, or they maintain their own state. So it's like creating a function. I can write this function once and reuse the logic multiple times. I can do the same thing with the class components. I can give it props. So how do I get those props? Well, I would just do something like so. This dot props dot header. So props are going to be defined for me by this dot props in the class component. So I said, hey, grab this instance, grab the props, and then grab the header prop off of that. And there we go. That's how we do props in class components. That one's pretty not too much of a difference. It's just instead of grabbing it from the param prop, we grab it from this. What is this? This is the instance of the counter component. Like this right here is one instance of the counter component. This is one instance of the counter component. It's kind of like our people. Our people both had names, but their values were different. Our counter components, they both have headers, but their values are different. They both have count state, but that's like their age, you know, it's like relative to them. It's their own state. Let's move on. Let's go do another example. Well, actually, let's just see it here, just since this is up. Let's do in our counter, let's do the use effect. Also that log mounted. I'm going to say this, this run only on and sorry, I'm going to go delete some of these components just to keep this clean. So I have a lot of console.logs going on. Okay, so let's inspect, clear, reload. I'm actually just even going to get rid of this class component so we can only see the functional logs. So rendering count, the functional component, count before render, that's 0, and count function mounted. So we render the counts. I'm going to get rid of this log. This is kind of, I just really want to show the flow. So we render the count component. So that's this log, like right before we're returning. So it renders, so it mounts, and then we log that use effect, counter func mounted. And that could be like use effect, so we can see that. And it's always going to come in this order where we render and then the use effect is called, because the use effect gets called after the component mounts. So let's do this in our class component. Well, inside of this method, so when we talked about overriding methods, there's some methods I can override or I can use. There's a component did mount function. So this is defined by the React class, React component class. You know, and it gets called I should say, after component mounts. So if I were to and let's just go test this and then we'll kind of throw some notes. So let's go ahead and uncomment our class component. I'm going to clear this. So our constructors called our render's called, and then that component did mount is called. So this is when we're getting into like more the nuance, the life cycle of a React component. There is like this flow. I think I'm going to skip when there's actually a callback we can call when state changes. I'm going to just not go there for now. I'm just going to keep this simple. Okay. So if we were to look at, props, we looked at props. In a functional component. So we just have our like const, counter script. We'd have our functional components, so it'll just be like const, counter props, return graph. We just grab it via props.header. It's a class component. This would be like our, I don't even need this demo here. Just do a ... We just get it from this .props header. Okay. With our mount. So in the functional component, we just grab the use effect. In a class component, it is the component didn't mount function that we define. And I'm going to say this, like you need empty array second arg. Do these, like, if like breaking it up like this, just like, so here's the state, with the functional component, we use state. Have multiple pieces of state, and then we use that setter to set the state. With our class, we set up the initial state in our constructor, and then we call the set state method to update state. Props, oops, I misspelled that. It should be props. I'll fix that. With props, from our functional component, we get them from params called props. And then in class component, we just do this .props header. And for the mount, for the functional component, we use the use effect hook. For the class component, we use this component did mount function. Those are like the key differences. Cool. So what I want to do now is, and I'm going to start with this way with the class component. So let's do like a little list, like a to-do list. I'll just call this one list. Let's just call it list.js, or maybe I'll call it, list.js. So class, so we need to import React. Class list extends React.component. We have to define render. So we do my render function. This needs to return JSX. So if I go to my app.js, let's comment out these counters. So now I can grab my list component. Let's do a functional component list.js. So just copy and paste this in here. So what would change? Well, I don't need the render function. I don't need to like make this a class. I just make this a function. There. So maybe we can throw this in the README, like state. Let's just do like so in the basic setup. Maybe we'll copy this. So we have our list component. That's my. That's the wrong one. Let's grab the functional goes here. So the counter list. And then for my state, sorry, for my class, just throwing these in like these like simplified examples, so you have access to them. Let's see if that looks good. So here's the functional, we just write, it's just a functional component. As a class, we have to define the render method. Something else I'm just going to throw in here. Kind of see there's a way we can get around this, but for now, this is just how we're going to do it. I'm just going to throw that in there. That's kind of like we define our constructor. So I'll just come in here and do that constructor. This is just something React wants us to do, pass the props up to the React component. And yeah, if we have any state, we can just do it right in here. Our initial state. Form list B. I'll slack this out. Any questions with this so far? Or is this like just, you seem like overwhelmed?
Just trying to absorb it all, really. I guess just trying to understand what everything's doing and keeping track of where everything is.
Yeah. So hopefully this README will like kind of show some of the key differences. But yeah, what I want to go into next, and this is just so you can have an example for your homework, is going into this list component and starting to do some like CRUD actions. So let's say like I have like I want to do like some tacos. We're going to have some taco state. And taco is going to have a name and a price. Those can both be, I don't really care if they're strings or not. I guess they can be a string and a number. So normally what we would do like render tacos, right? And then I come in here and I do render tacos. Render tacos is not defined. 17 render tacos is not defined. This is a little different where I need this keyword because now I'm in a class component. So the access, and I don't do the const. I just say, hey, grab this instance and do the render tacos. So now I can return. How do I grab the tacos? Because I want to map over the tacos. So how do I get the tacos here in this function?
This dot tacos.
This dot state. I have to go to
Oh,
the
that's right.
state first, and then tacos. Dot map.
Because you said equal to this dot state.
Yeah.
Got it.
It's always going to be to grab state. It's always going to be this dot state. To grab props, it's always going to be this dot props. But then it's like, it's the same. I'm just doing, there's my tacos and I'm going to map over them. So now like it doesn't change. Now it's like I'm just back to React land. So I can go in div class name equals Porter. And I can go through and render my tacos. T.name. Price, or something for the price. P.
And doesn't it need to be a T?
Yes, it does. Thank you, T. So that's what I called it right there. And T is not, see, it knows T is an object that's going to have a name price string. How does it knows that? Well, it knows tacos can like look at that, decipher that. Oh, it's an array of objects with name and price. Okay. So actually need to call that function. And there we go. So there's my list. And I can, have my like tacos. So let's do a form. Because I want to do a form. I'm going to do this, like call this taco form. But we're going to do this as a class. So import React from React class taco form extends React component. Okay, I need my render function. Let's go ahead and stub out some. This is our taco has a name. Inputs. And I'll just kind of leave this blank for now. We have a price. We can do a button. Something like all right, so I create another class component. Just kind of a stubbed out form. We'll need to actually kind of make this functional, but this is good for now. So now I want to use this in my list. So I can just do this right here, taco form. Let's maybe, I don't know, throw it right here. So my taco form, there it is. I mean, none of that's like really hooked up or working, but the UI is there. Let's just so we can add more state to this, so we can see an example with, you know, not just one piece of state. Let's add a way to like toggle this, the visibility of this form. So I'm going to have a button here that I want to toggle this form. And so in my state, I'm going to add, you know, after my tacos, I'm going to do like a show form state. And by default, I want that to be false, just because I don't want to show my form by defaults. So I'm going to add another taco in here, just so it has some. Okay. Okay, so my initial state, I'm going to have 2 tacos, and then I have this show form state, which is by default going to be false. So what I could do right here is I could do something like this. I could do this dot state dot show form and taco form. So go grab the value of the show form state. If it's true, render the taco form. If this is false, don't render the taco form. This is like a shorthand if statement. So if I refresh, that should not be showing. This dot state show form.
I think you have it backwards.
Do I? No, I didn't save it. So because show form is false, and that's right. So if it's false, don't show it. If it's true, show it. So that's working. I just didn't save it.
Okay.
So now I want to hook up this form. So on click, let's do toggle. Let's just create this toggle function. Now something like, I might want to also do something like this, like use this right here, this dot state dot show form. But I'm saying this dot state, like this is already becoming like kind of not readable. Something I could do right here is I could destructure. I could say const show form. You could structure that off of this dot state. And then I could like clean up this return a little. That's normally what I would do. So, but I'll comment this out. You know, I'll say this could be cleaner. But just since we're kind of learning this, I just want to be like very specific. Hey, this is this dot state dot show form. That's how I get there. So I'm going to go this dot state dot show form question mark. If that is true, that means I'm showing the form. So I'd want to say like hide. If it's false, it would mean I'm not showing the form. So I'd want to like give them the option to show it. And that I don't want to be on the on click. I want that to be the text. So it's show, I mean, it doesn't work, but I have the logic right. Hide. All right, so let's do the on click. It's going to call this toggle. What do I need though? Remember, it's going to be this dot toggle form. And so then I come define that function toggle form. Okay, let's write this function. This dot set state. Even though I have like taco state, I don't need to do anything with that. Like I don't need to spread out. Like if I'm not doing anything with it, I just don't add it. I only add what I want to change, and I want to change show form to be not this dot state dot show form. Now we've done this before, where we just use the inverse of the Boolean. Cool. So I go ahead, I click hide, boom, my app blows up. You are going to see this error a lot, probably, especially now with React and classes. And this cannot read properties undefined reading set state. Line 28. Line 28 can't read properties set state of undefined. This is undefined. So I need to make that an arrow function. And now that's updating my state correctly, which updates my form. But it's not changed, like my taco state is not changing either. So I think that's one of the big differences between like functional components and class components is you just have this one state object. With functional components, you could have one state object, or you can split them up. There's like no way to split it up with a class component. All right. So we have that working, so we can go back to our taco form. So I'm going to want to have state. So let's grab our constructor. Let's give it the props. This is just something, we need to call super props. I'm going to want to have this dot state. So this is kind of like my form state. So I'm going to have name. Let's just throw that as an empty string and price as an empty string. So now the value can be this dot state dot name. Value for this one can be this dot state dot price. So we can see this working. Let's just give them a default value. Show my form. Okay. The state's hooked up, but like I can't change my form. So I need to handle the on change. Okay, on change equals. It's going to be like this, handle change. This is also going to be a little different. Let me show you a little trick here. Okay, so for this one, I'm actually just going to write a function that handles both of my input changes. So let's just do a handle change. Make this an arrow function so we don't get that. This is not defined. Let's also grab this event. Let's do console log. I mean, we still want to grab the event target value. And for now, let's just assume, let's just get the price working. So I'm just going to only type on the price. So I'm going to do this dot set state. I'm going to show you why I'm doing this. So I'm going to hard code price right here and set it equal to e.target.value. So it's kind of weird how I've set this up, but I'm just kind of doing this small step. So if I come in here, I change my price, it's working. But then I also if I change my name, it also messes up my price. But I can have, I have that working and I'm logging the value. But I want to know which thing did I click? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say name. I'm going to give this a name prop. Let's call this X. Let's call this Y. And then let's log name. So I can give this a name and do e.target.name. All right, so now if I click on my name form, it's logging X. I click on my price input, it's logging Y. Cool. So let's actually just have these names match what they are in state. So I'm going to give this name the value name because that's what it is. I'm going to this input the name price. So now when I go to my form and I I'm on the price one, the name is price. So cool. I could do something like this. So now I could do if e.target.name equal price, and then do this. I can even add, if this equals name, then I want to set the name to the e.target.value. I'm going to get rid of these default values because they're. So now I can come in, I can give it a name, I can give it a price. Okay, I'm going to show you a cleaner way to do this. So first of all, any questions on what I'm doing here? This is something new. We're giving our inputs a name attribute, and then I'm going to set the value equal to whatever the key is in state. What I can do now, because there's some a lot of duplicate code. So I can, this works. I can do it like this. I can just say this dot set state. What I really want right here to be the key, because this is going to change, because I want to just have this be either name or price. And I have it right there. And I want that to be the key, and I want that to be the value, right? If e.target equals name, I kind of want this just to be that, price. Or if it's name, I want that to be name. Well, I can do that like this. I can actually say, hey, evaluate that. So if e.target.name is price, it will like evaluate that and make that key price. And then the value will be the thing from my form. There we go. My form works. And I did that with one nice little line of code. The nice thing is if I added like another one, like about, I just add some about state. And I want to add that to my form. And I just make that about, I need to make sure this name matches the key name. And then like the about would work. I can reuse just, I wouldn't have to do another if statement, like if e.target.name equals about, this handles it. Okay, so let's do our on click. Handle, or like, sorry, this is on submit. Handle submit. And let's just do that right here. Handle submit. It's an arrow function. Let's just console.log. This dot state. Let's take, and we still want to take the event. Well, let's not. If I don't have that event, this is going to handle submits not defined. I always do this. Okay, so I need to do this dot handle submit. Console, I come in a name, price, about. Click add. That's refreshing my page, which is refreshing my state, which is bad. That totally just destroyed all of those foreign values. So I want to do an e.prevent default. Go back to my form. Now when I click, there's my state. It has the name, price, and about. Cool. So like my form is close to being done. And now this is like, it's kind of the similar thing that what we did. So now I have my state living in this list component. And I want, when I click add, I want to add those values from my form to here, to this state. So I would do this the same way where I do like an add taco method. And this one I would like expect to be given a taco. You know, we would do like a DB call, skipping, but this is where we would do our database call. And now we need to update state. So this dot set state, I want to update my tacos. This might be nice to do in like a multiple lines. So like let new tacos or updated tacos, whatever you want to call it. That new array. So I want to create the new array with my original taco state with the one added. So I just need to spread out over my tacos, which would be this dot state dot tacos, and then add the one that was given to me to this function. Maybe I could do that at the start. And then I can set my state. I can set that taco state to be updated. Right, this add taco method is going to look the exact, it's going to look very similar to be like it would in your functional component. You'd still do it looked like this. You'd have like this let updated tacos, except you want to have this dot state dot tacos. It would just be tacos. And that should not be tacos. That should be taco. And then you want to call set state. You would probably have like a set tacos method. Right? You would have this function that takes a taco, you would do the database call, and then you would update state. It just looks a little different, you know, in the class component.
Are we learning this just so we know how to do both? Because my impression was that the hooks were made so that we didn't have to do this anymore, correct?
Yeah, but when you like, if you go to a company or you go to like Stack Overflow and you're looking at examples, or I mean, something we might use tomorrow is like semantic UI React. And like, we're going to look at like some demos of how to use, because these are going to give us like these nice little UI components. Like this is how we can, with very little work, make our UI look good. And like, we look at some of these examples of how to do it. And their code's in like a class example.
Gotcha.
And then if you were to go to like a company who like, yeah, they started writing React before they could use hooks, it's going to be class components.
Okay.
So yeah, so it is important enough where, yeah, you need to know how to do both. But I would say by the end of like, by the time you're actually like applying for jobs, I wouldn't say it's like super important right away. But and it's really, it's not once, I'd say at the end of the course, you kind of just spend like a week just writing class components. It's going to be pretty straightforward. But yeah, the first time you see it, it's like, what? I think the this keyword, and actually the this keyword is always confusing. So that one is not can be a little thing. Okay. But right, it's like, in my mind, it's more similar than it is different. So now, yeah, with this add taco method, I just need to pass it to my form, just like I would do. Like that doesn't change at all. Where is my form? Oh, it's right here. So I give that taco form that function that handles the adding. And so then in my taco form, I can now do this. This is where I want to like use add taco prop. Well, instead of props, add taco is going to be this dot props. Add taco. And then I pass it. Well, this dot state is actually going to be the taco. And I'm going to get rid of this about so it doesn't mess up my state. Right, this dot state is just that object that has name and price, which is my taco. Add tacos not defined. Did I do this? So that's list.js line 54. See, this is where like I'm always messing this up because I write so many more functional components than I do class components. So it can even like when I go to like class components, it can like I can get a little, if I haven't done them for a while, I kind of can get a little do stuff like this. or I'm forgetting some words, but. So let's do a new taco. Let's do shrimp. $1.99. Let's add that. That like added to my list, but it looked like it refreshed, right?
Yeah,
Did I get, okay, I guess I got rid of, I don't remember doing that, but e.prevent default. Must have deleted that. So shrimp. Price, 1 for 3. There it is. If I want to do it, let's just do a delete real quick and then we'll call it good. Just do a button. Delete. So this is where my state's living, so I don't really need to pass anything down. I can just on click, delete. The one thing I might need, actually, if I just like assume the name, like I could do it by ID, but I don't have an ID. Let's just delete by name. Just something unique. So let's do it by name. I could also do it by index. Let's do it by name. Okay. So, and I should not call this method delete because that's a reserved word. So I'm going to call this method delete taco. See, nope, it's not const. And it's not delete taco. See, it's this dot delete taco. Delete taco. Arrow function. Okay, so here we would like delete from DB. This doesn't change. And remove from state. And then we can even like update state, or we'll say set state. So we're going to skip this step. Not a database. So let's remove from state. So I'm in my list. I have this dot state dot tacos. So this dot state dot tacos. And I could say like let filtered tacos equal this. And this is going to be the taco name, because that's what I'm passing this function. It's not, I don't have an ID, so I'm just going to do the taco name. What method am I going to call on this? Like now this is like the exact same. This doesn't matter that we're in a class component right here. Because I grab my tacos, I just have to do this dot state dot tacos. I want to remove something, so what method am I going to use?
this is a filter.
Filter. And with class and functional components, it's the same idea where I don't want to mutate my state. I wouldn't want to do like a this dot state tacos dot push, because that would mutate my state. So I'm going to do it the same way I've been doing with functional components, where I'm using things like filter and map and creating new state. So I go through each taco. What is this one going to look like? It's going to be like, t.id does not equal ID, right?
Yeah, so is it T dot taco name?
Yeah, t dot what? This is a good one.
Or T dot this?
It's just t dot name, because t is a taco. And once again, see, VS Code knows this. It knows t is a object that has name and price. It knows name's a string. It knows price is a number. Because my tacos is an array of objects with name and price. So I give my filter function a function, it's going to return true or false, and where the parameter can be treated like one of the items in that array. And then, yeah, what do we not want this to be equal to? It's not the ID, it is.
That's the taco name.
This is the taco name. Because that's what I called it here. So they're going to give me the name of the taco. I'm going to go through all my tacos, go check, hey, does the name of this taco, as long as it does not equal the name that was given to me to this function, the taco name, keep it. So that's going to be my filtered tacos. And then I can call my set state method. Tacos would be filter tacos. And just a reminder, set state, update state, and triggers render to be called again. So now I can go through, I can delete beef to what happens, since I'm using the name, what happens if I delete beef? Is it going to break, or what's going to happen with how I wrote this? It's going to delete because I'm filtering. So if the name equals beef, it's going to not keep them. So if I delete one beef, it's going to delete all the beefs, but it doesn't delete the chicken. That's why we use IDs, because IDs are unique. So we can just remove one. Sweet. There we go. And there is React class components. So yeah, before there was hooks, if you wanted to have state or you wanted to have these lifecycle methods, you had to use a class component, but now you don't have to. But you do need to know how to use them, because you might be using someone's documentation, you might want to use their components, and you need to be able to know how to read this code.
So are we going to be using these a lot, or kind of just it's good to know how to use them and how to read them?
Yeah, I'd say for now, I think, you're going to be practicing today homework to write them. And I'd say, every now and then, when I'm doing lecture, I'm like, oh, let's just make this a class component just to get some practice. But if it was if you're actually writing a project at a company, you would want to decide, you wouldn't want to mix and match. You would, as a company, want to be okay, are we only going to use functional components and hooks? Yes. Okay, let's only do that. Let's not write class components. I know with my last job, we wanted to use hooks. We didn't want to rewrite our library, but the new components that we were writing, we wanted those to be functional components and use hooks. But we couldn't even use hooks because we couldn't update our React version because it broke our app, because we had so many dependencies. And that was a thing we needed to do. So we didn't have a choice. And hooks had been out for 2 years. So I'm going to add this repo to GitHub. If you don't have any questions, you can hop off for lunch. Come back at 2 o'clock. If you do have questions, I'll stick around and answer them. And I'll throw this link out in just 1 second.
All right. See y'all after lunch.
All right, thank you. See ya.
Have a good lunch, everyone.